Bell X-1 was a rocket-powered breakthrough that entered service in 1946 to smash the sound barrier. It stretched 31 feet long with a 28-foot wingspan, utilizing 4 rocket chambers to reach Mach 1.06 in 1947, proving airplanes could survive supersonic shockwaves. Bell X-2 took flight in 1952 to explore the thermal thicket at speeds above Mach 3. Swept wings and a liquid-fueled rocket engine pushed this swept-wing research vehicle to an astounding 126,000 feet before the program ended in 1956 due to a fatal loss of control. Douglas X-3 Stiletto debuted in 1952 to study sustained supersonic cruising with extremely short, stubby wings. Despite looking like a sleek titanium dart measuring 44 feet long, its low-powered twin-turbojet engines kept it from reaching its design speed of Mach 2 before retirement in 1956. Northrop X-4 Bantam started its flight testing career in 1948 to evaluate tailless aircraft designs at high subsonic speeds. Its tiny swept-wing frame lacked horizontal stabilizers, relying entirely on combined elevons for control across 82 research flights before retiring in 1954. Bell X-5 made aviation history in 1951 as the first aircraft capable of sweeping its wings back and forth while mid-flight. Power came from a single turbojet engine that allowed engineers to safely study aerodynamic drag variations at different angles until the test program wrapped up in 1955. Lockheed X-7 was an unmanned ramjet missile simulator that entered service in 1951. Launched from carrier aircraft, this 32-foot testbed regularly exceeded Mach 4 to evaluate high-speed propulsion and thermal defensive insulation materials, continuing operations until 1960. Aerojet X-8 Aerobee was an unguided upper atmosphere research rocket that began active service in 1947. Spanning nearly 19 feet, it safely carried heavy scientific instrument payloads up to altitudes of 138 miles, gathering data on cosmic rays until 1955. Bell X-9 Shrike acted as a liquid-fueled supersonic testbed for guided missile technology starting in 1949. Operating as a 22-foot precursor to the nuclear-armed Rascal missile, it evaluated autonomous flight paths and gimbaled rocket stabilization before its final launch in 1953. North American X-10 was a twin-jet unmanned technology demonstrator that took to the skies in 1953. Reaching speeds of Mach 2.05, this sleek delta-wing drone tested cruise missile guidance systems and automated landing gear before its program concluded in 1959. Convair X-11 served as a single-engine flying testbed, starting in 1957 to validate the revolutionary bossed skin structure of the Atlas missile. Its steel tanks held liquid propellants during 3 successful test launches that proved lightweight pressure-stabilized hulls worked before retiring in 1958. Convair X-12 expanded the Atlas rocket development program in 1958 by adding 2 heavy booster engines to the pressure-stabilized design. This variant successfully demonstrated a full staging sequence in flight, paving the direct path for America's space launch systems before retiring that same year. Ryan X-13 Vertijet changed vertical flight dynamics in 1955 by taking off and landing straight up on a jet exhaust plume. This unique tail-sitter design measured 24 feet long and successfully transitioned to level forward flight, concluding its testing by 1957. Bell X-14 arrived in 1957 to pioneer vectored thrust technology using internal exhaust deflectors. This open-cockpit twin-engine craft could hover, rotate, and land vertically, providing decades of invaluable handling data for lunar lander trainers until retirement in 1981. North American X-15 remains the ultimate hypersonic speed king, entering active flight service in 1959. This 50-foot black rocket plane reached Mach 6.72 and flew over 67 miles high, earning its military pilots astronaut wings before retiring in 1968. Lockheed X-17 was a 3-stage solid-fuel research rocket deployed in 1956 to study high-speed atmospheric re-entry. It launched payloads over 200 miles into space, before plunging them backward at Mach 14 to test nuclear warhead heat shielding through 1957. Hiller X-18 took to the air in 1959 as a massive 19-ton tilt-wing transport prototype. Powered by twin turboprop engines with counter-rotating propellers, it successfully evaluated the complex aerodynamic forces of tilting a whole wing for vertical takeoffs until 1964. Curtiss-Wright X-19 was a quad-tilt propeller vertical takeoff aircraft that began test flights in 1963. Its unique tandem wing layout housed two twin turboshaft engines driving 4 rotating propellers, providing critical data on transition flight stability before halting in 1965. Northrop X-21A debuted in 1963 to test laminar flow control by actively sucking air through microscopic wing slots. 2 modified twin-jet transports proved this concept reduced aerodynamic drag by up to 20%, though maintenance issues ended the testing by 1964. Bell X-22 entered service in 1966, featuring 4 tilting ducted fans. Spanning 39 feet with 4 interconnected turboshaft engines, it safely conducted over 200 test flights to evaluate military hover operations before retiring in 1988. Martin Marietta X-23 Prime was a small subscale lifting body spacecraft launched in 1966 to test wingless atmospheric re-entry. Made of advanced alloys and ablative shielding, it completed 3 high-stakes orbital drops to prove cross-range maneuvering before retiring in 1967. Martin Marietta X-24 entered flight service in 1969 as a manned wingless lifting body to prove spacecraft could glide to a runway landing. The aerodynamic design evolved from a bulbous teardrop into a sharp delta wedge, achieving Mach 1.6 before wrapping up in 1975. Benson X-25 was an ultralight gyroglider tested in 1968 as a minimal emergency escape vehicle for downed combat pilots. Weighing barely 60 pounds, these basic unpowered rotorcraft were evaluated for stealthy, controlled, unpowered descents from aircraft, retiring that same year. Schweizer X-26 frigate was an unpowered sailplane drafted into service in 1962 to train military test pilots in dangerous flight conditions like inertial coupling. Some variants were quietly motorized with quiet propellers for covert overwatch missions in Vietnam before retiring in 1973. Osprey X-28 Sea Skimmer was a tiny single-seat flying boat evaluated by the military in 1971. Weighing less than 900 pounds and powered by a small top-mounted engine, this compact patrol concept proved exceptionally easy to fly during police and military coastal trials before retiring in 1972. Grumman X-29 made its spectacular debut in 1984, featuring revolutionary forward-swept carbon fiber wings. This digital fly-by-wire jet stood 48 feet long and achieved Mach 1.8, proving aeroelastic tailoring could stop forward wings from snapping off, retiring in 1992. Rockwell MBB X-31 entered flight service in 1990 to explore extreme post-stall maneuvering using triple thrust vectoring exhaust pedals. 2 agile jet prototypes regularly flew at crazy angles of attack beyond normal aerodynamic limits, completing their high-angle test program by 1995. Boeing X-32 participated in the high-stakes Joint Strike Fighter fly-off starting in the year 2000. This short, heavy delta wing prototype featured a massive chin intake and a direct lift thrust system, reaching supersonic speeds before losing the production contract and retiring in 2001. Lockheed Martin X-35 entered service in the year 2000 to demonstrate a revolutionary shaft-driven lift fan system for short takeoffs and vertical landings. It quickly went supersonic, completed vertical hovers, and won the multi-billion-dollar fighter contract, retiring in 2001. McDonnell Douglas X-36 was a subscale tailless fighter drone that took flight in 1997. This agile, remotely piloted craft used split aileron steering and thrust vectoring nozzles to prove a stable fighter jet could completely ditch its vertical tail, retiring in 1998. Boeing X-37 is an autonomous uncrewed military spaceplane that entered active service in 2006. This 29-foot reusable orbital vehicle launches on traditional rockets and glides back to Earth on a runway, logging thousands of days in orbit across classified long-duration flights. NASA X-38 was a crew return lifting body vehicle that completed atmospheric drop testing starting in 1998. Dropped from a B-52 bomber, This wingless spacecraft used a massive steerable parafoil to safely guide itself to a soft landing, until cancellation in 2002. Boeing X-40A was a subscale unpowered spaceplane prototype that began autonomous flight trials in 1998. This 22-foot vehicle verified the automated guidance, GPS navigation, and runway landing software later used by the larger X-37 orbital spacecraft, retiring in 2001. NASA X-43 Hyper-X made aviation history in 2001 as an uncrewed scramjet-powered hypersonic vehicle. Measuring just 12 feet long, it utilized an air-breathing rocket booster to accelerate, eventually reaching an incredible Mach 9.68 before splashing into the ocean in 2004. Boeing X-45 was a pioneering tailless unmanned combat air vehicle that entered flight testing in 2002. Featuring a stealthy composite airframe and internal weapon base, this autonomous drone successfully demonstrated coordinated multi-aircraft strike maneuvers before retiring in 2005. Northrop Grumman X-47A Pegasus took flight in 2003 as a stealthy autonomous combat drone prototype. This unique diamond-shaped aircraft proved a tailless vehicle could safely manage the complex aerodynamic approach requirements for naval aircraft carrier landings, retiring in 2006. Boeing X-48 was an uncrewed blended wing-body aircraft that started flight testing in 2007. Built with a 21-foot wingspan, this multi-engine composite drone proved that a triangular flying wing design offers superior structural efficiency and low noise, completing tests in 2013. Piasecki X-49 Speedhawk was a modified twin-turboshaft helicopter that entered flight testing in 2007. It utilized a unique vector thrust ducted propeller on the tail alongside auxiliary wings to increase top flight speeds well beyond standard helicopter limits, concluding operations in 2008. Boeing X-50 Dragonfly was a vertical takeoff drone prototype that began flight trials in 2003. It utilized a unique canard rotor wing system where the main rotor spun for hover takeoff and locked rigid to act as a standard wing for high-speed forward cruise, retiring in 2006. Boeing X-51 Wave Rider was an uncrewed scramjet demonstration vehicle that entered active flight testing in 2010. Dropped from a bomber, its air-breathing engine burned aviation fuel to sustain hypersonic speeds above Mach 5, completing its final successful record flight in 2013. Boeing X-53 Active Aeroelastic Wing entered service in 2002 to evaluate thin, flexible wing controls. Using a modified fighter jet, it proved that internal hydraulic actuators could warp the wings to use aerodynamic forces for ultra-fast rolling maneuvers at high speeds, retiring in 2003. Lockheed Martin X-55 was an advanced composite cargo aircraft that completed its flight testing program in 2009. Designers built the fuselage using lightweight molded carbon materials, successfully proving that composite structures drastically cut weight and manufacturing costs for heavy transports. Lockheed Martin X-56 was an uncrewed modular testbed that entered flight service in 2013 to study high-altitude drone aerodynamics. It used incredibly long, flexible wings to intentionally trigger dangerous structural flutter, testing active digital suppression flight software until 2021. Lockheed Martin X-59 Quest SST entered flight testing in 2024 to revolutionize supersonic aviation. This 99-foot aircraft uses a stretched nose and distinct shaping to soften sonic booms into quiet thuds, aiming to lift commercial overland flight bands, and is currently active. Dynetics X-61 Gremlins is an autonomous drone system that entered active flight testing in 2019. These 14-foot air-launched UAVs are designed to operate in swarms and be physically recaptured mid-air by a recovery C-130 transport plane, completing test flights in 2021. Lockheed Martin X-52 VISTA is an heavily modified F-16 flight simulator that received its official X designation in 2021. This active multi-role platform uses advanced autonomous software systems to simulate different aircraft behaviors and successfully fought human pilots in real AI dogfights.